Gospels, all right? This is kind of the bread and butter. This is why we know and love them. You know what I mean? This is, if everything else we've been talking about is like, you know, a little side story, a little spinoff, what we're talking about right here, this is book one of Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Tell me about Harry Potter. This is the Philosopher's Stone, the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John we'll get to in a little bit. But this is what's known as the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're the primary sources for the life, ministry, crucifixion, and the resurrection of Jesus, written between 60 and 100 AD. Again, after Christ's life, which I think is important to note. A lot of people, at least me, when I was a kid, I was like, this was like a journal. This was like Anne Frank style. They were just writing it down in the attic. No, this was years later after Christ had died. They were like, remember that guy? The guy we all worship, the Lord, Son of God? We should write this shit down because no one's gonna believe this. Fish, and then there's more fish. Walking on water. How does he do it? Water to wine? We're writing this down. And then they called it the Gospels. Again, written between 60 and 100 AD, these Gospels were considered a blend of historical accounts and theological teachings. They provided a detailed narration of Jesus' actions, miracles, teachings, and interactions with various groups, including Jewish authorities. You should just read them if you get a chance. Just, crack open your Bible. Take a look. Mark, the earliest and greatest gospel, if I can say so myself, traditionally dated around the same time, it's considered the most historically reliable because of its simplicity and brevity. Matthew and Luke are written slightly later, and they incorporate, some additional materials. They're kind of freestyled a little bit, had some fun. And they also include some stuff likely from other oral traditions. These Gospels, again, are central to Christianity, but from a historical perspective, they also offer insight into the, social, political context of first century Judea. Pontius Pilate, Caiaphas, Herod, all mentioned in the Gospels are corroborated by non-Christian historical sources, once again lending credibility that these events actually occurred. All right, this is pretty fun. So far, it seems like I'm convinced, but maybe I'm a little biased. But if you're still holding out, let me tell you about the Gospel of John. This is written a little bit later, around 90 or like 100 AD, and it differs from the Synoptic Gospels both in style and content, which again, the Bible is not a book. It is a library, a collection of books, and within any library, there's different styles and genre of writing. And no pun intended, John exists differently than the other Synoptic Gospels. While the synoptics focus on Jesus' teaching and actions, John emphasizes his divine nature. John presents Jesus as the Logos, the Word, pre-existing before creation, and contains unique materials such as the raising of Lazarus. We all know that one. Lazarus was dead or some shit, and Jesus was like, bang, you're alive now. Peace be with you. It's like a black church. He was like, yeah, hit his forehead, and everyone went crazy. Long discourses by Jesus, which are absent from the Synoptic Gospels, and despite its theological focus, John's Gospel is still valuable for its historical analysis. It reflects early Christian beliefs about Jesus' divinity and contains details that suggest it was based on an independent tradition from the other Gospels. Interesting, right? For example, John's description of Jesus' crucifixion offers specific details about Roman practices, such as piercing Jesus' side to ensure death, which again align with external known facts about Roman execution methods. The Gospels are great because they also contain geographical and cultural details that, again, match first century Judea from external sources, which again support the historical accounts. For instance, the mentions of towns like Capernaum and specific Jewish customs observed by Jesus and his followers, again, add credibility. Let's go through some of the archaeological evidence, shall we? What about this place called Nazareth, where Jesus is from? The hometown, 818 or whatever. They didn't have zip codes or area codes. One of the key pieces of archaeological evidence supporting the existence of Jesus is the confirmation that Nazareth, the town where he's said to have grown up, existed during the first century. Early skeptics, which, again, I love to point this out, people have been hating on Jesus since day one. Even while he was still alive, the sophists would come up to him and be like, well, actually, I don't know if this is technically true. The Pharisees, people try to mock him and make him sound stupid. So early skeptics, right after the death of Christ, questioned whether Nazareth was inhabited at the time of Jesus. But archaeological excavations have uncovered evidence of habitation. That's right. Homes, tombs, artifacts all date to the period described in the Gospels. Looks like Christians are right again. The discovery of the first century house in Nazareth, believed to be typical of the time, aligns with the descriptions of the New Testament. Once again, everything's lining up. in addition to the Nazareth description in 1878, offers further support. There's a tablet that contains an imperial decree from the Roman emperor warning against grave robbery and tampering with tombs. Some scholars speculate that this could be a reaction to early Christian claims about resurrection, although, again, this remains heavily contested.